that. Enemies of the heir beware. I may be a muggle, but I'm a witch in the kitchen. What's up, hungry people? Today we're making Hermione's Sleeping Draught Cupcakes from the Chamber of Secrets. No magic required. Well, maybe a little bit of magic. But first, we need to get ourselves into the magical mood and transfigure my kitchen into the halls of Hogwarts. I might have a few tricks up my sleeve, so if you're into fictional feats, props, and more, don't forget to flip that sub button to keep your feed fed. Now, let's set the scene, shall we? Hogwarts is a vibe, especially the first two movies. In the second Harry Potter movie, Harry returns to school despite Dobby's best efforts to keep him away. Harry and Ron get back to Hogwarts via flying car. They reunite with Hermione, and classes begin. One particular Defense Against the Dark Arts class stands out when Professor Lockhart releases a cage full of Cornish pixies on the class. I always loved this scene as a kid, so I actually want to figure out a way to release some pixies on my set. We also had this weird Transfigurations class scene where Ron's rat is turned into a goblet. So we could probably figure that out. I really want to know what Peter Pettigrew thought about that. Thanks to an unfortunate Quidditch accident, Lockhart accidentally removed all of the bones in Harry's arm, and Harry has to drink some Skelligro in order to recover. We don't ever really get a good look at this in the movies, but in the books, Harry describes Skelligro as burning his mouth and throat as it went down, and caused his arm to feel full of large splinters. Yikes. So let's definitely make that. In order to acquire information about the Chamber of Secrets, Hermione makes some Sleeping Draught Cupcakes, which is what we'll be conjuring up today. In the books, they're described as plump chocolate cupcakes, but in the movie, they're vanilla with chocolate topping. I don't know why it's so hard to keep the details straight. That's an easy thing to do. I always imagined these cupcakes tasting similar to one of those Hostess cupcakes with the marshmallow filling. I don't know why, but that's what imprinted on my brain when I was a kid. So I think there's probably some way to use that for our base. And maybe make like a Sleeping Draught marshmallow filling? Could be pretty tasty. Also, fun fact, I've actually been to the Harry Potter studios in London and got to see this exact statue from the movie in person. It's also made from real bronze. Mostly. Finally, at the end, Harry defeats Tom Riddle in the Chamber of Secrets by using a basilisk fang to stab the diary and destroy the Horcrux that was possessing Ginny Weasley. And I have some ideas on how to make this look really cool too. There are so many little details in these movies that I could honestly spend just as much time, if not more, making the props as focusing on the recipe. But I can't get lost in the sauce. I've got to get back into a feasting mindset. So before we cook, we craft. To the garage! For our props, I first 3D printed the basilisk fang and the Skelligro bottle. From there, I applied a quick coat of ivory spray just to get a base layer on them. Then I started using watered down acrylic paint with a sponge to discolor the fang and add age to the bottle. I used this image for my reference painting the Skelligro, and I think I pulled it off. After that, I made a quick label with my Cricut and cut out some gold adhesive foil for the bottleneck. The diary took a bit more thought, and I've had this unused Tom Riddle diary for years. I think I picked it up on a trip to like Universal Studios or something. So it's about time it got some use. First, I drilled a large hole right in the middle, large enough for the thing to appear to have been stabbed into it. Initially, I was going to use this black CA glue to give the inky effect, but I didn't have any activator spray, so I ended up letting it air dry overnight and a lot of it soaked into the leather. Kind of like Tom Riddle was trying to tell me something. So I ended up using a bit of UVA epoxy resin and a bit of black alcohol ink to keep the ink looking wet and fresh, and also to seal Tom Riddle inside forever. I'll also use the epoxy with a bit of red in it to make the root of the fang look freshly ripped out. The rat goblet was a little bit more difficult, and honestly I'm not really sure if I like how this turned out, but I found a 3D printed base. I first started with spray painting it silver and painting the tail pink with acrylic paint. Then I was going to add some fur to really sell the effect, but I don't know. I was having trouble with the fur going on evenly, and It just kinda ended up looking sort of weird, so we'll just hide this prop in the background somewhere. Lastly, I found these awesome pixies on Maker World and put them in a cage. It was so easy, it was just like magic. So the props have been made, we've set the scene, now let's cook. To conjure up our cupcakes, we'll first need to combine sugar, room temperature butter, and some eggs. Then mix with a bit of magic. Next up, we'll add flour, fresh milk, salt, and some vanilla. Then we'll cast a mixing spell to whip it all together. Now we'll need a cupcake tin. I said a cupcake tin. There we go. We'll line it with some parchment cups and then fill each about 2/3 full with the cupcake batter and then pop the tin into the oven to bake until puffed up and golden. While the cupcakes bake and cool, we can start on the sleeping draught filling. I'm using marshmallows for my base, as marshmallows are basically like magic to British people. We'll make the marshmallows into fluff, then to help the filling set, we'll add some room temperature butter and just enough powdered sugar to potentially knock out a second-year student. Once the cupcakes have cooled to room temperature, we can use the De Primo spell to create small holes in the center of each cupcake in which we can hide our sleeping draught filling. We'll fill each cupcake with as much of the marshmallow filling as possible without overflowing. The cupcakes in the movie are topped with a swirl of chocolate frosting, so we'll need to conjure up a simple fudge frosting to top off our cupcakes and conceal the filling within. From there, all we need to do is trick some wizards into eating them so we can steal some of their hair, because there's definitely no easier way to do it. These cupcakes are remarkably simple and still taste absolutely magical. These are actually based on a real-life British dessert called a butterfly cake, and I've added my own muggle magic with a marshmallow filling. Between that and the chocolate fudge frosting, these are spot on to how I imagined they would taste on screen. Sweet vanilla filling with chocolate fudge frosting topping a soft yellow cupcake. Now, why do I feel so drowsy? What fictional feast should I make next? And what did you think about the props that I made? And what should I include on my next set? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked this recipe, don't forget to flip that sub button and ring the dinner bell so you can be notified of my latest recipes and foodie adventures that I post every week. Liking and subscribing is a free way to help a small creator such as myself grow, and it's super appreciated by me. Do you ever get hungry? You can find this recipe and many more with ingredient amounts and step-by-step instructions over on thestarvingchefblog.com. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next episode.